We all have heroes. People we look up to. People we want to be like. People we want to be. However, most of the time, if we are honest with ourselves, we have very little in common with our heroes. But what if there were people like us in the Bible? People who made mistakes, messed up, didn't always get it right, but really wanted to. What if they were people just like me?
Well, we're starting a new series today, and it's just like me, and we're going to be looking at characters from the Bible. And when we look in the mirror at ourselves, we're going to see some connections with them. And the guy we're going to talk about today is a guy that fell asleep in church. So we're watching. You ever done that before? But in light of where we're going in this series, I thought it'd be kind of fun for us to just do look at a little doppelgangers. You know what a doppelganger is? Like, it's a twin, right? Somebody who has a twin who looks like somebody else. So somebody said, I saw somebody that looked just like you in Walmart. And it's like, it's probably me, but it wasn't, right? You weren't there. And so let's just look real quick at these celebrity doppelgangers. Right? Okay. Pratt, right? And Smith, they look alike. Angelina, right? And Megan, you can see the resemblance, right? Okay. Oh, but these guys, right? Chris Farrell, right? And who's the other guy? Anybody know? Nobody knows. Chad, right? Yep. Chad Smith. Look at this guy. All right. Yeah, this was a couple of years ago at camp. Somebody was like, dude, you look like Ron. Ron Swanson. It's like, no, I don't. And they were like holding the phone next to me, right? So maybe you have a twin out there. Maybe you don't. Maybe someone's come to you. But as we look at these characters in the Bible, we're going to find that we connect with them in ways that, maybe we've not thought of before, but they're there. And so today we're going to be in Acts chapter 20. And we're going to talk about this guy named Eutychus, okay? Kind of a strange name, but I love how the Bible doesn't, when we read this story, after we read these few verses, you're kind of like, why is that even in there, right? But it's in there because it happened, right? And remember, Acts is like a history book of the launch and the church itself. And, believe it or not, we're still writing the book of Acts today. We've not written the last chapter. The last chapter will be written when Jesus comes back, right? And so in this history, we get this story. In chapter 20, verse 7, it says this: on the first day of the week, we came together to break bread. Paul spoke to the people because he intended to leave the next day, he kept on talking until midnight. Right? Now, we're not going to do that today, but right. And there were many lamps in the upstairs room where they were meeting. Seated in a window, there was a young man named Eutychus who was sinking into a deep sleep. Paul talked on and on and on and on, right? Like preachers do, right? When he was sound asleep, he fell to the ground from the third story, and was picked up dead. Like, wow, okay, that's it. We can go on with our day, right? It's like, Rob, that's what's going on here, right? And for you and me, when we think about this, I don't know. Is anybody a person in here that can just fall asleep anywhere? Anybody? As I get older, I become my dad. My dad could fall asleep in the middle of a conversation, and he would wake up and he could pick right up, right in the conversation, like he had never been asleep. And my dad was not a quiet sleeper, My dad was a snorer through and through, and so he just picked right back up. Yeah, and I tell you, my kids. So after Sunday services are over, our rhythm for our family is that most of my kids make their way over to our house. We have lunch, and after I have lunch, I'll sit down, and my kids are waiting. They're waiting, and they have taken pictures of me. Right here's wait no longer. That's me after lunch. There we go. Yep, and yep, that's me with my grandson. Yep, couldn't even stay awake holding him. He was asleep too. And there I am, I'm acting like I'm on my phone, but I'm really asleep. Right? And maybe you can sleep anywhere. I'm one of those people that can't. I don't normally sleep on airplanes, but I've been next to people who they sit up. They are ready. They bring the thing that covers their eyes. They bring the earplugs. They have a sign that they tape to their chest. It says leave the snack. I want Sprite. Leave the can, please. Right, and whatever snack you got. Right, and So and sometimes we fall asleep in church. I'm watching you. Yep. And so what causes this? I guess. What caused Eutychus to zone out, get bored, in such a fashion that he fell asleep? Well, I think there's really two causes that I want to just bring up. The first one is me, and the second one, a preacher, right? A preacher that's not prepared. Okay. The second one is, well, it's you. It's coming just to get. And so let me just talk about me for a second. Me. So if you had to guess, so some of you, you're in front of people for a living. You teach and those sorts of things. Let me tell you from this perspective. Do you think it would be easier to preach for an hour or for 25 or 30 minutes? Let me just tell you, you're all looking at me blank, I don't know. I hope he doesn't go an hour. That's what you're all saying, right? Let me just tell you, I could preach for an hour easy, and I probably might need an hour to get ready, but I could talk for an hour about the Bible easy. I tell you what's difficult. What's really difficult is trying to get that message, get what God is having you to say down to 25 or 30 minutes. Because there's so much to say, what aren't you going to say? And make that 25 or 30 minutes into something that holds the attention of somebody that's only been in the room for 20 minutes. And holds the attention of somebody who's been in the room for 30 years. And I don't mean you've been in here 30 years, but you've been a believer for a long time. You've heard a lot of sermons, right? And I'll just tell you, quite often I feel pregnant. Now, you're like, Rob, we know that you've never been pregnant, right? You're right. But I've been around somebody that's been pregnant several times. My wife has contracted pregnancy several times, right? And but I have something inside of me that's growing, right? It's this message that God has for me to deliver to you, and it takes me all week. It takes me all week to get ready to deliver a message on the weekend. And I just tell you, it bothers me. It wakes me up in the middle of the night where I get up and I'll write things down. It gets me up early in the morning where I'll get up and write things down or take things out, and all this sorts of things happens all the way until we get together and I get to deliver this message to you. And I got to tell you, after all that is over, a whole weekend full of that, we do it 3 times, and Sunday nights I go home and I'm wore out from all the delivery that I did, right? I mean, right? And I go to bed early on Sunday nights. I get up early on Monday morning, and guess what? I'm pregnant again. I got to do it all over again, right? And this cycle that goes on, and God's Spirit is hopefully leading your preachers and your staff, right? But what happens sometimes is, sometimes the message just doesn't connect. And I got to tell you, from a pastor's perspective, not all. I mean, not every time I get up to preach, do I feel like really excited about what I'm going to deliver. Sometimes I just don't. Sometimes it's a hard subject. Sometimes it's something that God's working on me, and it's hard for me to deliver something to you that God's working on me at the same time. But in that, you guys expect, we want somebody who's going to get up here and deliver something and be prepared. Now, I don't know whether Paul wasn't prepared or not, but it says he went on and on and on and on. We don't know whether the room, it says there were lots of lamps in the room. Maybe the room was hot, it was packed with people. You know how that gets, right? And the next thing you know, you're asleep, right? Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about is you coming to get. Now, I want to let me break this down for you, because I don't know, but I come here expecting to get something. I do. Every time I meet with you guys, and whether it's in a small group or my D group or whatever it is, I come expecting to get something, because we're opening God's Word. We are worshiping the God of the universe, right? Who is worthy of all the breath that I can give. Every ounce of that, and I expect that fills me up. You sharpen me, right? So I expect to get something, but sometimes we come expecting to get things. Well, that will eventually it'll make you bored. I think sometimes we expect to get things that I think will actually kill you, actually make you die. And you're like, whoa, Rob, what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about sometimes we come here and we have some expectations of programming, for instance. I spent most of my ministry not in this room, but in the back with teams of people serving all kinds of other age groups. And I loved that. But what would make me cringe is when I would have somebody come to me and say, we're here because of your program. Now, don't get me wrong, I was excited because we had a kicking program. It was awesome. It was amazing. And I had a kicking team. It was amazing. We still have all that going on. But you know what made me nervous? Because that's no reason for you to come to a church for a program. Okay? Eventually, the program will disappoint you. Eventually, the program will not fulfill what you think it should for whatever reason. Okay? And two, sometimes, like for this morning, right? You may have come in here, you may have been a little bit late, you got B parking. You didn't get your parking spot. You're like, great, I'm not going to get that. I'm parking out in the gravel. By the way, we are like paving the rest of the parking lot. Do you know that? The whole thing. Yeah, Jeff's working on it, right? It's going to happen. He's the man, so ask Jeff when it's going to happen. He knows. It is going to be amazing. So it's like, no more B parking, right? But I mean, you got to walk. It's so great. I had to walk in. Maybe I went to a different door. I wasn't greeted right. It's like, great, I didn't get greeted. All right. And I go to the coffee bar. There's no coffee. It's like, I didn't get my coffee. All the donuts are gone. I'm going to get that, right? And you make it into this room. You look around. It's like, great. I'm not going to get my seat. Somebody's sitting in my seat. Can you believe it? Somebody invited their family or whatever. Can you the gall them? They're sitting in my seat. But I'm not going to get that. And then it's not long. We're 3 songs into the worship service, and you realize that you're not going to get to sing your favorite song, right? And then comes the little lead-in video, and you realize, great. We're in the same series we were last week, and I didn't get anything out of that, right? And so here we go. And the next thing you know, the only thing you're worried about is what you're going to get for lunch, okay? You want to be bored and you want to zone out in church. Come to get something. Come to be a consumer. Come not to get engaged in ministry. Come just, because of what you feel like you need. You know, Jesus was very clear in how he lived. I love what Matthew writes in Matthew 20. It says this, whomever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. You know, this carries on through the theme of the Gospel of John, right? Jesus came to give, right? And that's what Jesus did. And so when we think about just being able to zone out, fall asleep in church, if that's happening to you, you're probably just coming to consume. I would challenge you to get engaged, to dig in, to be part of what's happening, not just to come to get. Although, right, you'll find that if you take this service lifestyle and mentality to heart, you will get more than you ever bargained for. It'll change your life. And so, think about this. This guy zones out. He falls out the window. And you know, if you've ever walked away from anything before, if you've ever just kind of quit something before, and you've ever kind of thought, should have I done that? You ever quit something or walked away from something that later you regretted? Like, I wonder how that would have turned out if I would have hung in there. You know, you ever thought about that? You know, this idea. You know, this idea that everybody knows somebody who has fallen out of church. Everybody knows somebody. You know, maybe, and I don't mean literally falling out the window, but I mean they just quit coming. They just, for whatever reason, they just quit. They just you know, maybe they got their feelings hurt, or maybe, you know, maybe it was something, you know. It could be a number of things. Or they didn't feel like they were ministered to like they were supposed to be. And, you know, the list, it could be anything, but we all know somebody. It comes to mind. It may have been somebody that invited you to church. It may have been somebody that came to church with you, and now they're not here. Right? And I got to tell you, I hear it all the time. You know, when I say that, I've got hundreds of faces that flash through my mind of people that have stepped away for whatever reason. Now, if you know, some people get hurt and they're recovering in some way from church hurt or whatever. But there's a time when you re-engage, right? And I got to tell you, you know, if you don't have somebody that comes to mind, I think that you are unique. And I think I hear all the time, you know, people say, you know, hey Rob, I'm stepping away from church. It's like, oh, and usually they don't tell me. I just have to go track them down, right? I call them, like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What's up? You know, it's like, hey, you know, I just got to step away because do you know that place is full of hypocrites? Do you know that? Do you know that? And it's like, yeah, okay, I actually do know that. I do know that. And I would probably say what Paul said, of whom I am the worst, right? You know, absolutely. And here it is. Whatever the reason, if it's that, you know, think about this for a second. If that causes you to go, you know, there are people that all the time that pretend to be something that they're not, right? It happens all the time. Not just here, all over work. Does that cause you not to go to work? It probably doesn't. You probably put up with it there, don't you? Yeah. Listen, if this has caused you to step away, or you know somebody who stepped away, I got a good question. So, if you step away and the hypocrite stays in church, who's actually closer to God? It's a good question. And I would have to say it's eventually going to be the hypocrite, because they stayed in community. They stayed in community. And this is important for us. this picture of not falling out, not walking away. I love this time of year when we think about it getting cooler. I'm still waiting on it to get cooler. You guys, it's like it's summer today. The air conditioner's on today, right? I'm waiting for it to get cooler. I love evenings with my family and friends around fire pits, right? Anybody like that? I mean, that just comes along with fall. And I love a real fire. I love like the smoke. I love walking away smelling like smoke, right? And your eyes are watering and you kind of like, man, that was awesome, wasn't it? And right before the evening's over, whoever it is, that's got the firepower. I love fire. I used to be a pyromaniac when I was a kid. But you gather all what's left of the fire together, don't you? Gather it all together, you bank it all together, and then you go in, right? And maybe if you've ever been camping before, you do this, and you come out after a great night's sleep, or maybe not so much great night's sleep. You get up early, and what can you do? You can go over to that fire and just throw a few twigs on it, right? And what happens? Boom. It's like an instant fire all over again, isn't it? It just like takes right off. But let me tell you this. If before you went to bed, instead, if you were to take those coals and separate them apart as far as they could be, maybe you take some and even set them out other places. When you come back in the morning, you can pick those up. They're not going to be hot anymore. They will be cold as can be. This is what happens when we fall out of community. You die. You're like, well, I don't know anybody that's died other than this guy in the Bible. No, you may not. I don't know anybody that's physically died because of it, but you spiritually will die when you fall out of community, or when you choose to walk away from community. And this is a good reminder to us, right? To stay awake, to stay engaged, because something bigger is at play here. And for you and me, think about it. When we fight the desire, whatever it may be, to let other priorities, right, supersede us gathering together, or you gathering with us to worship. Or when we wake up, in the morning, we're like, yeah, not today. I'm just going to roll over and go back to sleep, right? Or you wake up, you get ready, and then that voice says, it really doesn't matter whether you come or not. It does. It does. And if you've ever been on both sides of that, you know the difference that makes in your day, in your week. And that's what we need to be reminded of. Eutychus. And so, if we were to leave the story there, it would be tragically sad, wouldn't we? I didn't read the last verse to you. Let me read it to you. It says this: Paul went down and threw himself on the young man and put his arms around him. Don't be alarmed, he said. He is alive. He's alive. This remarkable miracle, right, has taken place. He fell to the ground. He was dead. Paul goes down there. He's like, hey, don't worry. Paul picks him up, wraps his arms around this kid, and now he's alive. Says he goes. They go on into the early morning, right, talking and chatting, breaking bread, and they just continue on. Let me ask you this, because maybe you're here and you don't, you're still questioning or exploring who this Jesus guy is. And let me just say, Jesus did something first with his arms for you, which he stretched them wide open on the cross, and he died. And he died for you specifically for what you earned from your sin. And when he came out of the grave, He was alive. And he encountered people left and right and, well, literally wrapped his arms around them. And he'll do that for you. For us that, you may already know this story and heard it many times. Or you've been, in church for a long time. I want you to think, I'm going to have the band make their way up. I want you to think with me for a moment. Who is it that God may have you wrap your arms around to bring them back to life? What may that look like for you? Who might that be? And it doesn't have to be complicated. Because like I said before, we all know somebody who has fallen out or walked away or fallen asleep for whatever reason. And God can use you to bring someone back to life. It may be as simple as a text or a phone call. You may have to do something big like get in your car and drive over there. But let me ask you, who does God want you? Who can God use you to bring someone else back to life? What would that look like for you? I love the picture that we get from Paul just walking down and doing something so simple every day. We wrap our arms around people, and in this, we just don't know the power that can be translated, right, into simple contact in a loving way to people who have zoned out, fallen asleep, or just walked away. And you don't have to ask for a complicated explanation. You may probably already know. You just need to let them know that you care and you love them. And so, if you haven't yet met Jesus, don't leave here today without us talking. You may need to leave this service and go find who you need to wrap your arms around. But we're just going to stand and we're going to celebrate with this song together. Let's sing this together.